Hi, I'm Jessie Quack. I'm the editor of the Crooked series of sci-fi crime anthologies, and today I'm presenting a reading from Austin Dragon. This was originally recorded October 5th. Austin Dragon is the author of over 20 books in science fiction, fantasy, and classic horror. His works include the sci-fi noir, cyberpunk detective series Liquid Cool, the epic fantasy Fabled Quest Chronicles, the international epic sci-fi After Eden series, the classic Sleepy Hollow horrors, and new military sci-fi Planet Tamers. He's a native New Yorker, but has called Los Angeles, California his home for more than 20 years. Words to describe him in no particular order: U.S. Army, English teacher, one-time resident of Paris, ex-political junkie, movie buff, Fortune 500 corporate recruiter, Renaissance man, futurist, and dreamer. He's currently working on new books and series in sci-fi, fantasy, and classic horror. Take it away, Austin.
So let's go ahead, and this is an excerpt from the story. Okay, so here goes. From the corner of my eye, a police cruiser sped through the sky 30 feet above normal hover traffic, a standard five-seater hovercraft, but no sirens. More reinforcements for whatever was happening in Silver Soho. I should have been driving away from the place, not to it. Metropolis loved its cops. They were really local government soldiers in the never-ending war on crime, but they were our soldiers, standing tall in their full silver and black body-armored uniforms and visored half-helmets, the word peace etched across their chests and back. They scared the crap out of the street thugs and gangs. Good. That's what the citizens of Metropolis wanted. Metro Police could obliterate a homicidal perp or escaping hovercraft single-handedly. You couldn't stop the criminals we had in this super city with anything less than a police force that was nothing short of hell on earth. That meant my current sequence of actions was possibly even more ill-advised. National labor stats said that being a private detective was more dangerous than being a police officer, and we didn't have body armor like them. I was a sole operator. The police were their own gang of sorts, being a 500,000 strong police force. Another stat that I kept from the wife was that criminal life on the mean streets of Metropolis was only slightly more dangerous than being a civilian private detective. Yes, this was my job. Why did I do it then? I'd been a hovercar restorer of some note, living in a simple legacy baby, low expenses life. Why did I upset the apple cart of life? Simply, I wanted more. I wasn't like all the other average Joes and Janes in the rainy gray world. Wake up, work, exist, eat, sleep, repeat. I wanted more because I was more, even if it was the dangerous world of being a private detective. I had to admit I was good at it. A patchwork of unrelated hard skills, behavioral idiosyncrasies, and anti-authoritarian attitudes made me a natural. Who knew borderline obsessive compulsive disorder and video game mastery could be so handy? Most people either work for international or multinational megacorps, the arch enemies of Big Brother, or Uber governments, the man, the arch enemy of big bad business. In my chosen profession that I'd stumble upon, I worked for both and neither at the same time. I was proud of my cleverness in a Zen way, creating my own lane in the cosmos of life. Also, as a detective, I'd never complain about being bored again. You never knew what was going to happen next. Was your client going to give you an electric bag of cash or shoot you? Was a criminal gang member going to give you some street intel or shoot you? Yeah, I had a thing about being shot. People who were in the know, the masses, thought being a detective was cool. Those who were in the know, people with brains, knew it was a sign of insanity. What else could it be when you knowingly went into a legal business in which you had to deal with so many crazy maniacs for a living? If it were illegal, you could at least get somewhat properly compensated before you were killed. Detectives, police, and soldiers alike were all crazy to do what we did, but we loved it anyway. I took pride in being an honest detective since there were so few of us. It fit nicely with my contrarian personality. Most detectives were corrupt gutter rats, so that meant I had to be the honest Abe in the bunch to single-handedly uplift and class up the profession. The case was typical, being hired to do a thorough background check and surveillance on individuals, businesses, or locations for security purposes, both a staple of private investigation work. In fact, most of what the masses thought PIs did wasn't true. We didn't investigate murders, that was cops, and we didn't chase people down, that's bounty hunters. Besides the checks and surveillance, I did civilian investigations and skip tracing for the courts, and insurance and fraud investigations for mega corporations. When I first started out, I tried to avoid the cheating spouse, peeping Tom surveillance cases, but there was so much of it that I finally agreed with PJ that I was leaving cash on the table, lots of it. My current case fell under the corporate investigation category and had the highest paying clients. But this client hired me to investigate his own family. Usually it was a client wanting me to investigate a current or future business partner, look into allegations that threaten the company's reputation, find an occasional blackmailer, or track down stolen proprietary information and the culprits without involving the police. I didn't like that PJ said his son was potentially dangerous. I'd seen the client's son once at a corporate charity event, but I didn't get that vibe from him. The son was only 25, but that was not too young to be doing bad things. By that age, they could already be a veteran at it. The father hadn't mentioned or hinted at anything with the son, but that could simply be the father's way of testing whether I was any good or not. The problem with being famous was that people were always testing you. I always told people that the Hollywood-style super detectives were a myth. They're true stories of gun battles with crime lords beating up cops, sleeping with clients, secret consultative work with uptight multinationals, and more gun battles were complete nonsense. However, in my case, the violence part was a bit too on point for my taste, as my Blade Gunner, Alien Hunter, AI Confidential, and classic cyborg cases, among others, proved. These cases were the mirror opposite of the typical cases, having lots of mayhem, but I always kept my cool. I breathed a sigh of relief. The red and blue siren party with hover traffic being directed away from the area was not part of Silver Soho where I was going. I turned and descended off the skylanes just before the real slowdown by floating police cruisers ahead. Whatever it was had to be big for stacked lanes of traffic to be diverted. One of the unwritten rules of Metropolis was that traffic must flow, no matter what. Traffic, trash, and electricity. Without any of them, you didn't have a super city. Besides the flashing red and blue lights and the police cruisers hovering in the air, I could make out the bright yellow police line do not cross tape on the ground in the distance and billowing smoke. I barely noticed it because the smoke was black, and against a dark sky, it practically invisible unless you're on top of it. Fire and explosion, I'd have to read about it on the news later. I officially exited the freeway for the streets. The restaurant was called the Star Palace. It did indeed look like a silver 20-story palace right in the middle of 100-story towers on either side. I liked that parking was in the towers. I didn't have to traipse through the streets and the rain. I liked it even better when I saw the valet parking was manned by well-dressed professionals rather than grungy college students. With a classic vehicle like mine, I had to always use valet, but go the extra step paying the extra money to park it myself. None of the valet staff minded because most of them knew my pony from the many publications featuring it without my permission. Often they'd ask to take a picture with me in front of it, which I always agreed to. Having valet staff on either side meant having an extra layer of security for the pony. However, forget all that. The second I stepped out of the elevator capsule from the 77th floor onto the ground floor lobby entrance on the Star Palace, every one of my internal alarm bells sounded. In the detective business, it was your instincts, not any lethal weapons or fancy driving, that kept you out of danger and saved your life before anything else. The wealthy love their classical music, and that's what I heard before the elevator capsule even landed. From the elevators, I walked 10 feet across the marble-like floors with animated stars moving around under my feet. Even before one crossed into the private hall, I could see that the building was 20 stories, but inside was only 2 levels to give the full architectural effect of extreme vaulted ceilings. That was not the problem. At the entrance was a quartet of exquisitely dressed female greeters with lots of skin showing. Their dresses looked like they were made of diamonds. Their hair, makeup, nail polish, lipstick were all flawless. However, their smiles were fake. I'd seen enough people under duress to know that when someone was scared. Their eyes also told me they wanted to be any place but where they were. Around them were bodyguards. The 3 big, brawny cyborg bodyguards standing near the women wearing black suits, cheap-ass black suits. It was like one of those puzzles you played in school. Which one of these three things don't belong? Richly dressed females, high-class restaurant bar, or three thug cyborgs in cheap-ass suits? I didn't know if they were armed, but I always assumed they guard, cyborg or not, was. These cyborgs had metal hands with the most pathetic spray-on skin I'd ever seen. I'd assumed their whole arms were bionic too, but the telltale giveaway was the ocular implants, the kind where your sunglasses were actually part of your face permanently. And there it is.
Hey, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that reading. So I promised I'd tell you a little bit more about Crooked, and here we are. So what Crooked is a series of sci-fi crime anthologies that are edited by me. And the thing that sets this anthology series apart is that it exclusively focuses on including stories that are part of a bigger universe. So if you read one story by an author, say if you really enjoyed what you just heard, you can go to that author's site, which will be below in the show notes, and you can read more stories set in that universe. So the idea is to give readers kind of more of what they love and introduce them to other authors. So for example, if you're a big fan of one person's universe and you find, oh, they've got a story in Crooked, you can go read that story, and then you might find other stories by similar authors, and then you can go read their world. So kind of just a way of helping readers explore and find more authors that they love. And so if you enjoyed what you heard, please go support that author. Follow the links below. You can go buy the anthology and read more stories, or listen to more of the presentations of people reading excerpts from their stories on this YouTube channel. Go ahead and subscribe there. And I look forward to bringing you more exciting sci-fi crime stories. Take care out there.